What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lockdown Defense Sports Channel. I am your host for today's episode, Robert Garcia, Young RG, as Coach likes to call me. And in today's episode of Undrafted Free Agents, we are, of course, going to be talking about the Los Angeles Chargers undrafted free agent class from this year. Now, of course, the undrafted free agents are nowhere near as exciting as the actual draft picks themselves. And of course, the draft for some people kind of gets a little bit less interesting as the days go. I think the day 3 and the undrafted free agent class are probably some of the most important aspects of an NFL draft for any franchise. Anybody can hit on a top 3 pick, on a first round pick, even, top 3 rounds, that is where most of the talent resides, of course. But it really takes, the geniuses and, the assistant coaches to kind of go out, the scouters to go out and kind of find some of these guys that, aren't really on too many teams' radars, but they still want to contribute and they still can contribute. And of course, there's always some diamond in the roughs. And, we've had some of the greatest players ever, as undrafted free agents. So what UDFAs will make an impact? Who can make the 53-man roster? These are the questions we'll be asking. However, before getting into that, I thought I would throw out a couple of, well-known players that were Chargers undrafted free agent signings, starting off with the GOAT, of course, Antonio Gates. Probably the most notable Charger undrafted free agent signings, and really one of the most notable NFL undrafted free agent signings, just because he didn't play a lick of college football. He was a straight basketball player, and he ended up becoming one of the greatest NFL tight ends in history. So, that's pretty significant to say the least. Getting into the next one, another legend, although unfortunately not for the Chargers as much, although we were the team to sign him, Larry Little, 5-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler. That was pretty much that staple of the Dolphins, quote unquote, I don't want to say dynasty, but their great runs in the 60s and into the early 70s. And he was, of course, part of that team that went undefeated, won the Super Bowl. I believe that was 72. So, that's pretty interesting to think about. Austin Eckler, of course, now starting to get into a little bit more recent. Well, I guess I should have started with Wes Welker, but those are the last 2 I wanted to end on. Wes Welker, Austin Eckler, it's kind of funny enough, all offensive players. Weird to think of. But yeah, so Wes Welker, Austin Eckler, another couple of notable guys. And I know Eckler gets a lot of flack, from myself included, for a lot of the things that he couldn't do. But, looking back on it, of course, as an undrafted free agent, the things he was able to do, and some of those moments he had for us in Charge Blue, we'll never forget. And he definitely belongs on that list. So now getting into the undrafted free agent class of this year, I'm just going to read everybody off, and then I'm going to give you my 2 players, one on offense, one on defense, who I think are most likely to make the roster this season. Spoiler alert, they will be positions that I feel like are strong needs, or that we can really, really use some depth at. So just reading it off now. We got Miles Purchase, the cornerback out of Iowa State, Garmin Randolph, the outside linebacker out of Baylor, Nico Reed, the cornerback out of Oregon, Eric Rogers, the cornerback out of Rutgers, Raheem Sanders, running back out of South Carolina, Corey Stewart, the tackle out of Purdue, DJ, and I am 1,000% going to butcher this, Uwagalele, QB from Florida State, Savion Washington, the tackle out of Syracuse, Marlo Wax, the linebacker out of Syracuse, so a couple of Syracuse guys there back to back. And then continuing the list, we got Terra Edwards, a D lineman out of Illinois, Josh Fuga, the D lineman out of Virginia Tech, Luke Grimm, the wide receiver out of Kansas, Kylan Guidry, the outside linebacker. I just cannot talk today. Outside linebacker out of Western Kentucky, Nash Jones, the guard out of Texas State, Jalen Jones, the safety out of Virginia Tech, another Virginia Tech guy there, along with Josh Fuga, Josh Kaltenberger, another Josh, center out of Maryland, Steve-O Klotz, the tight end out of Iowa State, and Jordan Oladukin, the cornerback out of Bowling Green State. So obviously, I think if you noticed here, if you were able to count going back and forth between the 2 lists, I believe it was 8 what I would consider non quote unquote hardball positions, which are the wide receivers, the cornerbacks, the safeties, running backs. Although that's kind of a mixture. Basically, the big beefy guys, the linebackers, the O linemen, the D line, those are what I would consider hardball positions. I guess you could really throw the running back in there now that I'm really thinking about it. So make it, I believe, 7 non-hardball guys that we took as undrafted free agents out of the total of 18 that we signed. So 11, trench players, tight ends, those big guys that, Harbaugh loves to rave about, as he calls them, skill positions. So getting into the first skill position, I had to go with Josh Fuga here out of Virginia Tech. 6'2", 313, played in 60 games across 5 years at Virginia Tech. And in those 60 games, he had 4 sacks, 12 tackles for loss. So, not the biggest numbers. They don't jump off the screen at you, obviously. But I thought his story in particular, and the way the Chargers got a hold of him during the draft, and just kind of looks like the chemistry they kind of already have with him, I thought was really interesting. So a little bit of backstory. He was called during the middle of the 7th round by his agent, and his agent, of course, was in contact with our D-line coach, Mike Elston. And basically they got in touch. They got them in touch, and Elston basically told him, hey, we're going to give you a call after the draft. And sure enough, they give him a call basically right after the last pick goes through. Funny enough, we had the pick before the last pick in the draft, so thought that was kind of interesting. And so, gives him a call, and who else is on the call but the assistant D-line coach, Will Tukuafu. Tukuafu, I think is how you pronounce it. Will Tukuafu. And the head coach himself, Jim Harbaugh. So I thought that was awesome. Fuga called it the greatest call of his life. I thought that is just so cool. I mean, that has to be such an amazing, surreal experience for an undrafted player. And, other teams did show interest in him. The Niners, the Colts, Saints, and the Dolphins all showed interest in him. However, the Chargers really were the team to show the most interest in him. They were actually the only team to send him any kind of apparel whatsoever, or I guess anything. He was the only player, or excuse me, he only received any kind of gift from the Chargers. So I thought that was pretty cool. And he stayed all 5 years at Virginia Tech. He was even quoted saying that he was raised to start what he finished, which is why he never left, even though he sometimes contemplated it. So, a very loyal player. And I think the biggest thing just here is obviously the D-line guys are always getting hurt. The trenches, especially, guys are always getting hurt. Probably the most injured position groups, offensive line and defensive line in the NFL. Excuse me. So I think having a guy that played in 60 games across 5 years, and I think he played in all 13 games in 3 of those seasons. So, that just having that consistency of somebody that is, you can always say availability is the best ability. And that's certainly true for most positions. But, as I think just as a backup, or maybe just somebody that, has some flash. He may not light up the score or the stat sheet like some other guys will, but I think just having that consistency at a D tackle position, or, if he's able to rotate, play a little bit of nose tackle, whatever it may be. I think, he's somebody that can definitely learn behind some of these vets we have, Tier Tart, for instance, especially Jamari Caldwell, who we took in the 3rd round. So, I think this is just going to be a very interesting piece to look out for. Obviously the guys that are at most possible to make a roster are the ones that, are playing at positions of need. So I think Josh Fuga would definitely be an interesting guy to look out for, and definitely look to see him on that final 53. Now getting into a second and final player, we have another Josh, funny enough. This is Josh Kaltenberger out of Maryland, the 6'6", 308 center, who started all 12 games at center this season for the Terps. And he was in all Big Ten academic honors in the last 3 years, which may not seem that important for a football player, but for a center, that is probably the most important trait you can have is your brains and being able to diagnose certain stunts and coverages and just having that kind of, I don't want to say mentality, but having that those smarts come in so huge, and they play such a big role, more than what you would expect, maybe even a little bit more for centers specifically than the athletic side. Obviously, you still need to have that, potent athletic side to him. I mean, 6'6", 308, he's definitely got the frame for it. But I think, that having that kind of an intellect as a center is so important. So I thought this would be a very interesting signing. He was a graduate transfer from Purdue, and even when he was at Purdue, he played in 36 games across those 3 years, 21, 22, and 23. He was a 3-star recruit out of high school, and with Maryland, he was a part of the number 3 passing offense in the nation. He was the 11th highest graded pass blocker from the Big Ten this year. And that's according to PFF. And he only surrendered 6 hurries and 11 pressures. So, and obviously having some higher talent, is always going to help. But excuse me, I think one of the most interesting things, and it's so on brand with the Chargers and what their entire draft class has looked like this year, is he scored a 9.72 on the RAS, which, of course, if you guys don't know, the relative athletic score, I talked about that a lot in the Chargers draft video. You should definitely go check out, because that is the theme the Chargers were going for, just these uber athletic guys, and they continue to add with those guys. I mean, 9.72 from a center is insane. From any O lineman is insane. So, just another sneaky athletic guy, and he's got the brains. So, I mean, honestly, with center being one of the weakest positions, it probably might be the weakest position for the Chargers, especially on the offense. With I don't even want to talk about him, but Andre James is the guy we signed, and then Bradley Bozeman, who I will always have love for what he did in the Saints game. When I forget the Saints D lineman who basically gator rolled Herbert's leg, and got up and pushed him down, got in his face. Like, I will always love and respect him for that. But as far as actually playing center, he was downright awful. He could not diagnose a stunt to save his life. Granted, nobody on the interior O-line could, so, take it with a grain of salt. But he was one of the worst. I think he was like the 33rd ranked center last year, which, how are you the 33rd ranked center when there's only 32 starting centers? That just blows my mind, but whatever. That just goes to show you why I believe in Josh Kaltenberger so much, as a dire position of need. And if he can just show anything in OTAs and training camp and rookie mini camp, then, I think there is 1000% a spot for him on this roster. So definitely very excited to see what he does. Looking out for the 2 Joshes. Funny enough, I didn't even realize when I was, going through the players that I wanted to highlight, that the 2 guys would be named Josh. So I thought that was kind of funny. It just fits so perfectly. But that will do it for me, guys. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out anybody else on the channel's socials, you could find them here for Mike Dubb, Alex Gibbons, the real AG, and myself, Robert Garcia. And as always, you know where to find the Lockdown Defense Sports Network. We're on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, and of course, we have our Gmail down below. So if you ever want to send us some, ideas for videos or anything that you guys want to see, please let us know. We are always happy and, of course, here to serve you guys with our daily dose of ball knowledge. So that'll do it for me, guys. Once again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit comment, like, and subscribe on the video. We always appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.